doing it for the fun. And next big tip is you watching this video.
23 mysteries, 7 levels. I spent hours scouring the internet to compile the most disturbing internet mysteries ever uncovered. We'll start with some cryptic posts and go deeper into stories so twisted they'll stay in your head forever. So, let's start at the tip of this iceberg. Level 1. The Hidden Agenda.
We must ask that you do not reveal this area to the public. If you believe that you may be prone to revealing information or do not wish to participate, please close this program immediately by pressing Alt F4 or selecting the No option when it appears. By selecting the Yes option, you agree to participate and not reveal information.
Back in 2003, a spoof game called Kanye Quest 3030 came out, where rapper Kanye West's cartoon version fights other rappers like Tupac Shakur or Lil B in a dystopian world of 3030. For 2 years, everyone thought that was the game. Until 2015, when one player noticed an unusual screen full of broken letters that secretly spelled a message about Ascend and the based god. And just moments later, the game asked him to type any word he wanted. Being curious, he typed Ascend, and within a second, the game did something it had never done before. It teleported the player into a hidden area inside the game. The colors were dull and empty, with a giant mysterious butterfly floating on the screen. The game further asked if the player wanted to continue and ascend more. When the player said yes, it demanded a secret code. Players had to dig through the game files to find that password. Each time a correct code was entered, the game reacted by making the screen darker and the sound more disturbing. As a result, every step forward felt less like progress and more like being pulled deeper into the unknown. At the final stage, the player was sent to a blank white world where enemies appeared with strange names and no bodies, which vanished instantly. It felt like the game was no longer being played by normal rules. However, things got stranger when the final terminal appeared and asked if the player wanted to ascend one last time.
You have proven your worth once again. You have ascended. However, further ascension is always possible. If you do not wish to ascend further, your journey ends here. So please close this program by pressing Alt F4 or selecting the No option above. By selecting the Yes option, you agree to participate further and you grant us permission to interact with your possessions. Would you like to participate?
If the player said yes, even then, the game claimed it would contact them in real life, asking for the player's real name and home address. Because in reality, behind its harmless gameplay, Kanye Quest 3030 was a recruitment tool to pull people into a strange cult called Ascensionism, which believes humans can reach a higher level of life through reincarnation and attain their best selves. Keeping that in view, the game wanted the player to keep these hidden places secret from others. Yeah, that's what gamers are known for doing. But when other players also tried to look for it, many of the links and sources mysteriously disappeared. Whoever ascended, they all said that the deeper you go in the game, the more it feels like you can never escape. A puzzle before time. In April 2019, a strange post appeared on Reddit that showed pages from an old travel book filled with codes and maps. At first, they looked like a fun puzzle. But slowly, people realized the pages pointed to real places. Someone in the 1950s had purposely put all of this together, had it printed, and sold it as an ordinary travel guide called Around the World in 2,000 Pictures. But this copy specifically was not normal. It was filled with strange symbols and cryptic writings, like lines in Cherokee, some secret codes, or maps drawn inside tiny dots and lines as if they were hiding some enigma. The first marked page had a name, G.B. Vanderbusman, and the date 1838. Below that, there were codes to 5 real places, one of which led to a hidden image of Murphy's Pyramid in North Carolina. But when the image was checked, its size also turned out to be precisely 1838 by 1838 pixels. This meant that there was something about the number 1838. So, on digging deeper, it linked to the Trail of Tears, when the US government forced Native Americans to leave their homes so whites could take their land, a time of great suffering and many deaths. But it's unclear if the book really refers to that incident. Besides the number, people found a lot of places like old bridges, lighthouses, parks, and Cold War radar stations. Murphy's Pyramid specifically kept showing up again and again as if it were the center of something dangerous. But what stood out the most was a boat-shaped monument because it had not been built yet in the 1950s. So whoever wrote the book knew the future. In fact, this belief grew stronger when a strange phrase kept repeating in the book, Crossfire Gambit. When people searched for it online, it led to a modern-day secret website with 52 code words that matched exactly what was written in the book. Everyone thought that perhaps the bookstore owner might clear up the mystery, but the store owner said that they had never sold the book. Instead, they received it in the mail with Freemason papers and a note that mentioned it as a Soana book. However, the places it mentioned weren't the ordinary ones. For example, in places like the Tunnel to Nowhere, Murphy's Pyramid, and Nolta Church, the explorers found red and white rose graffiti that matched the 4 red and 7 white code groups hidden in the book, card suit symbols in the exact order used in the Crossfire Gambit cipher, Cherokee words that matched the same words written inside the book, and the same eye and triangle imagery used on the pages. No one knows what they mean, but it still sparks curiosity in everyone. What are you dreaming? On April 30th, 2015, a Reddit user named Marcus Yallo shared that a handful of small flyers had suddenly appeared on walls and poles in Portland, Oregon. The flyers mainly had a strange question asking about people's dreams with a phone number on them. Plus, there was a text that read, "The Willamette Valley Dream Survey is investigating a recent spike in bizarre, unexplainable dreams. If you have been experiencing any unusual dream activity, you can help by reporting a summary." When the number was dialed, a voicemail asked them to describe their dreams in detail.
Please leave a detailed account of your dream after the tone.
But no one knew who was listening on the other side. One user traced the phone number, which led him to a German summer camp, but the camp was never involved in any dream survey. Since the incident was harmless, after a few days of attention, the case went cold. But on April 29th, 2020, another Reddit user, Aliens Did 9/11, posted something similar, showing the same flyers had come back again, this time in Utah near Salt Lake City. They had the same question with different numbers and a different name, Happy Valley Dream Survey. This time, people identified a darker pattern behind this. Back in 2008, the internet had gone crazy over a website called thisman.org that showed a rough sketch of a strange man with thick eyebrows and a blank stare. But the haunting part was that thousands of people around the world claimed they had seen exactly that same face before in their dreams. Keeping that in mind, in 2020, people thought the Dream Survey was somehow connected too. But what followed next raised serious questions because both those Reddit users suddenly vanished from the internet, and so did their original posts. It felt like someone had already fulfilled their agenda and was now cleaning up traces. That pushed online investigators to dig deeper, which led them to a group in Portland called Futel. Futel used to run free public phone booths, and inside their phone system was something called the Willamette Valley Dream Survey. Someone even used one of their phones to report a dream, but Futel never replied to questions. On the contrary, when people called the Utah number, they got a strange date in reply, September 5th, 2020. When it was looked up online, it turned out that the date was tied to a doomsday-style account on Reddit that called itself September 5th Survivor. Clearly, someone had mixed the dream survey with a disaster prophecy, which made the Utah version feel staged, but the Portland one remained unsolved. Level 2. Mind Controller Chip in Body. Chip Chan is a young South Korean woman who had been live streaming her life on 4chan since 2008. In every stream, she just sits alone in her small room with handwritten signs on the walls. But according to her, she's never alone because a man called P, or Pig, is always with her, even when no one else can see him. Well, Chip Chan believes P is a corrupt police officer who planted a device inside her body, specifically in her foot, connecting directly to her brain. According to her, it's a mind control weapon that lets P see through her eyes, hear what she hears, and even move her body whenever he wants. In fact, she named her YouTube channel after that belief. But things get worse when Chip Chan claims that using this device, P gives her burning rashes and makes her bleed. One day, she even claims that P breaks into her house, makes her unconscious, and takes her somewhere. Later, when Chip Chan returns to her place, she finds that her things are missing. Initially, everyone thought she was an attention seeker, but when she continued the same thing year after year, people realized something was terribly wrong. They noticed photos of her injuries that Chip Chan posted online with the pictures of police officers she believed were involved. To her, the police were not helpers, but part of the same group hurting her. In recent years, she began uploading videos of her skin covered in swelling and open wounds, but when medications didn't work, it made her belief stronger that P was blocking the meds from helping her. Based on her behavior, many diagnose that she's a paranoid schizophrenic who needs serious medical attention, but the way some people intended to help her didn't seem so safe either. Like, one person said that he'd fly to Korea, marry her, and protect her. No. Chip Chan last posted almost 1 year ago, so it's unknown if she's okay or not. Memed to death. When users on a meme site, YTMND, or You're the Man Now Dog, saw this strange photo of a man, they thought it was just another meme. It had a weird text, "You gon' get," on it, uploaded by a user called Shadow22 on March 26, 2005. The image went viral because the man looked unusually disfigured, but internet users soon discovered he was real. His name was Brian Peppers, and he likely had Apert or Crouzon syndrome, which affected his face and skull. However, instead of empathy, the internet turned him into cruel memes, tracing his photo to Ohio's offender registry. Brian had been convicted of gross inappropriate imposition or inappropriate intimacy with someone without consent. Someone said it involved a female nurse, while another story claimed it involved someone not of legal age. However, in April 2005, tables turned for a moment when someone claiming to be his brother, Alan Peppers, appeared on YTMND sharing a long, emotional story and saying Brian had just died. The goal was to paint his brother, Brian Peppers, as an innocent man. Instead, it turned out that Alan never existed, and the post was simply a troll. In early 2005, this mockery went to the next level when someone anonymous created a Wikipedia page for Brian Peppers. At the time, Wikipedia's rules used to be loose, so the page kept getting deleted and recreated time and again. People were divided, arguing whether Brian should even have a Wikipedia page or not, as it could cause real harm to society. The fighting on the internet got so bad that Jimbo Wales, a Wikipedia founder, had to step in at one point and lock the page so it could never be recreated. He even banned people from talking about it for a year. However, in 2011, someone tried again to reopen the page as it was unlocked for a moment, but eventually it failed to reopen. Instead, Brian Peppers died just 1 year later, ending all the trolls on its own. Notes in the woods. In 2019, a hiker in Pennsylvania found a small note wrapped in plastic hanging from a tree. But it wasn't the only one. Soon, these notes started showing up all over Schuylkill County, a coal mining region in eastern Pennsylvania. They were everywhere, on trails, inside cereal boxes, in new clothes, and even in school areas. There was no information on who was putting them there. What's even stranger was the messages written on them. They talked about some secret societies, JFK and Oprah, mixed with numbers and random symbols in a paranoid tone. It felt like the writer believed some hidden groups controlled the world. The government ran secret experiments, people were being watched, and Schuylkill County was part of that system. But after 2020, these mysterious notes spread to Pottsville, Ashland, and Harrisburg. Reddit users jumped in sharing photos and trying to find a pattern in them, but they got nothing. Instead, things got worse as notes kept coming inside butter packs, honey packets, and candy.
So I poured it out in my bowl, and out comes this paper that was all folded up just like this.
People became so paranoid that the FDA had to step in to check if the food was poisoned. Later, despite the food turning out to be safe, by late 2023, the FBI also got involved, making this more than just an internet mystery. The notes looked like uncontrolled personal writing rather than a designed puzzle or story, as if the author was recording a terrifying inner reality. According to the experts, it looked like someone was in a mental health crisis. As a result, people online started calling it Schuylkill Schizo, which is nothing but a phonetic misspelling of schizo or schizophrenia. Finally, in 2023, a Reddit user found a hidden clue that put a question mark on this explanation. It was a 2015 Reddit post that shows a similar note found in a changing room, along with a pamphlet for a seminar at a Masonic lodge in Sunbury, Pennsylvania. Sunbury is close to Schuylkill County, and that Reddit poster admits the pamphlet was real. But nothing could link the Schuylkill note to that Masonic pamphlet directly, apart from the similarity. But what comes next is no longer just an online puzzle, it's real lives unraveling in front of the internet. So hit that subscribe button and let's dive in. Level 3. Something that predicted the future. Between 1994 and 1999, a secret group called Rand and Associates, RA, was working inside a hidden underground collider in Africa, protected by United States Africa Command soldiers who watched every researcher day and night. But inside, the scientists weren't only researching, they received messages from something that called itself an entity from a parallel universe. The entity had claimed it was a student sent by elders from a parallel reality who noticed that our entire solar system had crossed into their universe, colliding with another reality. To track when this collision would happen, the entity gave predictions about the sun, Jupiter, and a cosmic sonic boom, creating a timeline that pointed toward something called the Fuse Year. The entire system was called CHANI, short for Channeled Holographic Access Network Interface. However, soon the researchers realized that CHANI was not alone. Instead, it was secretly merging with other classified projects like dark matter programming, quantum manifestation, and simulation by atom replacement, turning the lab into a creepy experiment hub. But suddenly, in October 1999, when engineers started making the systems Y2K compliant, a major change happened. On November 14th, 1999, the entity that had spoken daily for 5 years suddenly went silent and never spoke again. In fact, after months of failure, in April 2000, Project CHANI was shut down, and in 2005, all the data was handed to a secret group called Rubicon, whose job was to leak classified information slowly into the world. As a result, by March 2008, Rubicon released it under the infamous thread titled, "Me Tell You Now So You Believe Me After 15 May," using the exact strange writing style of the entity. People started believing the entity was real, and 2008 to 2009 might be the fuse year. But when humanity survived the time, Rubicon shut the operation down in 2009. Only the insiders still kept theorizing that 2012 would be the fuse year for us. But the real fuse year never came, and no one could crack exactly what happened to the entity that day. The live that took her. Anne Christine ran a small YouTube channel called Monster Mom with 2.7 thousand followers, where she shared her life online almost every day. She mostly talked about pain, sickness, and deep depression, which made her followers believe she was unwell. But nobody imagined she would go as far as she did on August 3rd, 2021. That day, Anne started a YouTube live stream with the title, "I Will Die." In it, she sat in front of the camera alone in her room. A true crime YouTube video from the channel, That Chapter, was playing loudly in the background. But around half an hour into the stream, she took a syringe and looked like she was trying to inject herself. Within 10 minutes, Anne Christine suddenly fell backward out of her chair. You could hear her body hit the floor in the stream, followed by heavy breathing and strange noises. For 15 minutes, her body kept jerking again and again. And after that, everything went silent. The live stream continued for another 1 hour and 25 minutes, probably until the battery died. Anne Christine never got back up, and that was the last thing ever posted on her channel. It was clear that Anne intentionally ended her life. But people on Reddit were still looking for answers. They found older videos showing her talking about dying, heard her talk about illegal substances for pain, and saw track marks on her arms. A Danish journalist named Ms. Mia Dietrich spoke to Anne Christine's old friends, and the only thing they knew was that she was dead. To this day, no one knows why she chose such an extreme measure on live stream. I mean, my take is this is just a person who was dealing with severe depression and wanted to reach out, maybe hoped someone on the stream might talk her out of things, but maybe didn't. I don't know. I don't know what was unfortunately going through her mind. What I do know, and I'll say it every time I see these things, is folks, if you're dealing with depression, with thoughts of self-harm, please talk to someone you know, trust, even if it's a hotline, a friend, a coworker, just whatever. Your life matters. Things can get better. Please don't do this. Mail from the dead. It was November 2011. A man named Tim Hart was casually checking his emails, and suddenly a new message made him freeze. Its subject line said, "I'm watching." And it came from his childhood friend, Jack Froese. The only thing is, Jack had been dead for 5 months. It got more disturbing when it talked about events that happened after he died. The body of the email said, "Did you hear me? I am at your house cleaning your effing attic." Now, Tim went pale because Jack and Tim used to hang out in that attic and often joked about how dirty it was. What's even creepier is that just before Jack died, he had promised to clean it. Being extremely panicked but also curious, Tim replied to the message, but no response ever came. Instead, another new email came to Jack's cousin, Jimmy McGraw. It said, "Hey Jim," and the email revealed that Jack knew Jimmy would break his ankle, as Jimmy really had broken his ankle after Jack died, just 1 week before the email arrived. Some thought Jack had set up emails before he died, while others speculated that his email might have been hacked. But only someone very close would know those details about a dirty attic or ankle breaks. In the end, the email stopped coming, and soon this unresolved mystery went cold. A game of horror. This is Utaho no Tatari Part 2, The Curse of Utaho, a game released on the free Japanese site Mugen.jp in 2013. It looked harmless, with pixel art, top-down rooms, and soft music. But in the middle of the game, it had something unsettling. First, the screen went dark. Then, a loud noise hit the screen, and after that, a photo appeared like a jump scare, which looked like a real dead or unconscious Asian woman, not pixel art. The game froze on that image while the disturbing sound continued to play. The only way out was to quit the game. Naturally, people who tried to play the game for the first time were shaken. Seeing a real dead body, many of them thought it was a glitch, but glitches don't create photos like these out of nowhere, so the players found another way to solve this. When the jump scare hit in the game, an error screen text appeared over the eerie photograph, and inside that gibberish, they noticed some readable Japanese phrases. When translated, it only made things worse. It read, "I will kill you, help me, and you are evil." Clearly, this was intentional, not a glitch. Finally, a user by the name Miko Effect, who worked on translating, confirmed that the game's developer often used photos from movies, masks, and models. That meant the image was likely fake, but no one could prove this theory until March 2025. Another user named RodXDHG posted a huge revelation, claiming that the photo came from a 2007 Japanese horror movie called Exte Hair Extensions. The exact frame appears about 38 seconds into the movie's trailer, and the game just copied it, which means the body was never real. After 12 years, the mystery finally ended, turning out to be a purely intentional jump scare. Level 4. Hinted on Reddit. In 2022, a Cambodian expat and a Reddit user named OxyOverOxygen made a strange post titled, "Found a bag of on the ground." At first, it sounded too casual, like someone trying to get attention. But he further wrote that he had found a bag with nearly a gram of 90% pure Cambodian and felt tempted to snort a line, which seemed real. How did he know it was 90% pure and Cambodian? So, other Reddit users eventually began commenting under his thread with friendly humor. OxyOverOxygen was replying to all of them. However, after a few days, he stopped. Days turned into weeks, and his account went unusually quiet. People who knew OxyOverOxygen on Reddit grew concerned since this was pretty unusual of him. Finally, one day, another Reddit user came into the thread and dropped a chilling update that OxyOverOxygen had died from a overdose on March 16, 2022 in Cambodia. The user even shared a link to his obituary, which revealed that the deceased was 21-year-old Nathan Jens Rasmussen, who came to Cambodia to travel. Just weeks before his death, he had posted about that bag of the same that later tragically ended his life. Tutorial for grave robbing. In the early 1990s, a bizarre homemade VHS called Grave Robbing for Morons was circulating randomly. But nobody knew who made it or where it came from. The tape only showed a single boy, Anthony, talking straight into the camera. But the concerning part was what he talked about in it. The boy was giving a tutorial on how to dig up graves, steal human remains, and take objects from the dead to sell them. The tape was part of a 4-video set called Ensuring Your Place in Hell, while the other tapes were named as Mortuary of the Dead, Cooking with Huck Botko, and Exploding Varmints. Undoubtedly, grave robbing for morons was the worst of them all. It gets more disturbing when he warns to never leave witnesses.
Never leave witnesses. If you have to knock them out so that way they think it's a dream.
His oddly calm tone while explaining these things made it feel disturbing, even though the video showed nothing graphic. But things took a turn when some people tried to find out who the guy really was. At the end of the video, Anthony had listed himself and 3 friends, Gino, Taco, and Poochie, using their first names, revealing that their next target was Houdini's grave in Queens, New York.
This is a trend. We will keep doing it for the fun. And our next big hit is Houdini.
But still, nobody could ever find them. Most people only believed that he was Anthony Casamasima, who also stole cemetery artifacts. But the real Anthony Casamasima was much older than him and looked nothing like the young person in the tape. There's another theory that links this tape to Ricky Casso, who killed his teenage friend Gary Lowers in 1984. Plus, Casso had also been arrested for grave robbing. But even that theory could not be backed by official evidence. Instead, some pointed to a mysterious 1987 book called Say You Love Satan. It described selling skulls in Greenwich Village, and some of the dialogue in the tape sounds almost identical to the book. But this clue also lost track in the middle. The only thing certain is that the video was made in 1987 or later because the Evil Dead 2 movie cassette was visible in the background. But apart from that, nobody has ever found out who Anthony really was. Level 5. Mysterious Prayers. In 2020, a bored Reddit user searched his own username just to kill time and found an old thread he commented on before where someone had recently replied. Dear God, gods, or anyone else who can help me, members of super-intelligent alien civilizations, the next time I wake up, please change my physical form to that of Finn McMillan of South New Brighton at 8 years old and keep it that way forever. I am so sick of this chubby Asian man's body. Thank you, Charles Jin Kim, aka A Desperate Soul. At first, it looked like a joke, but being curious when the man searched the text online, the same message appeared on a Bitcoin forum, a Christian website, and even an IRC chat log on a Linux server. But one question keeps coming back all the time. Who is Finn McMillan, whose name was mentioned in CJ Kim's Reddit prayer? It turned out that Finn was a real boy from New Zealand. In 2011, when he was 8 years old, he filmed himself rapping just before the Christchurch earthquake. Eventually, the video went viral and Finn became briefly famous. So, CJ Kim also wanted to wake up as that exact child to become famous overnight. However, his prayers didn't only stop there. Upon further digging, one website revealed a long, paranoid essay about God. When the man checked the author's username, it was CJ Kim, the acronym of Charles Jin Kim. Upon further digging, it was also revealed that CJ Kim is just obsessed with money and the lottery. One version of the message on an old Bitcoin forum said, "Dear God, please let me win the $8 million Powerball jackpot on Wednesday. I will use the money to set up my own research lab and find the cures for cancer and aging. I will release the cures into the public domain. Everyone, rich or poor, will no longer suffer. Childhood cancer will be history. Thank you, Chaljing Kim." But just when this case seemed almost solved, another shocking breakthrough came. Turns out, multiple Reddit users claimed that the same prayer arrived at their home 4 years earlier in 2006. This means someone wasn't just posting them online, but also physically spreading it around the world. But when everyone tried to check who this could be, a specific news report from 2013 caught attention, where a man named Chaljing Stephen Kim was arrested in New Zealand for planting fake bombs at the University of Otago after becoming angry over a rejection email. That discovery made a lot of things click, not just because of the matching names, but because CJ Kim had also wanted to become a biochemist and cure cancer. When the University of Otago rejected him, he believed they had taken that future away. After that, he turned to lottery schemes instead. Suddenly, the money, the anger, and even the strange prayers made sense. Kind of. A detained mukbanger. This is Kate Yup, a popular mukbang YouTuber with 1.75 million subscribers. Her USP was eating a lot of seafood and raw fish on camera. But what intrigued her fans more was that she never spoke and always wore a mask. Some followers also noticed that she always ate like someone who had been genuinely starving. When they compared her to other mukbang creators, the difference was clear. From that point on, viewers started finding strange clues in her videos. When she tapped a bowl in an odd rhythm, people treated it as a signal, leading some to believe it was Morse code for "I need help." Even in the subtitles, they found 4 fishy lines that said, "Hey, I'm still alive, my friends. You can see to my smile. Everything is okay for me. Look at me. Are you really thinking I am forced to eat? Prawn, just smaller than giant shrimps and easier to eat because I removed the skin." Taking the first letters of each line, the viewers formed the word help. Some people even identified a muffled voice giving her commands from behind the camera. As a result, people truly thought Kate was actually detained somewhere and secretly asking for help. While none of these claims had any solid evidence, there were some questionable signs. Kate had bruises on her arms, cuts on her lips, and swollen skin. Even her style of mukbang was dangerous. In her first video, she ate 5 kilograms of salmon while blindfolded. In another mukbang, her tooth fell out, but still she kept eating. However, Kate denied all the rumors, claiming that the marks came from the sun and cold sores, but people noticed one unsettling thing, even in these responses, that she wrote them in the third person. And the concern turned into panic when she stopped uploading after November 10th, 2019. It pushed a YouTuber, Toria Kinlove, to investigate what happened to Kate. But Toria could only find a French Coke bottle and a Facebook photo that suggested Kate was French, but nothing more. Later, Kate Yup returned and posted again, proving she was alive, but her real identity and whereabouts remained a mystery. I genuinely hope there's nothing bad happening to this person, but as can often be the case, I find that these things are done because it gets people talking and it gets people interested and it just gets you a lot of views and attention. Not saying that's what's happening here, but I am saying it is a possibility. A mysterious 9/11 video. In the early 2000s, raw 9/11 clips flooded the internet, and inside that chaos, a name began to circulate called LOL Superman. People claimed it was filmed between World Trade Center buildings 5 and 6 on September 11th. The story said the video was about 2 minutes long and showed 4 or 5 people falling right in front of the camera, so close you could hear them hit the ground. The rumor first started from a single YouTube comment in the mid-2000s and spread across 4chan, where users repeated the same details until it felt real. Even though the supposed uploader was banned and the video was erased for its graphic nature, the story kept growing. The story became even more unbelievable when, in 2011, a user on Documenting Reality added that a firefighter had yelled at someone between the buildings for filming. But when an actual clip finally surfaced, it was only a 5-second video titled Superman, uploaded by someone named 19Heather9. What's surprising is that it was traced to the Androgina building fire in Rio de Janeiro in 1986, not 9/11. Later, investigators searched Heaven 666, Death Addict, Fleur, and archived sites for the rumored 9/11 footage but found nothing, because that infamous LOL Superman video never existed in the first place. Level 6. Someone woke the dead. Reddit users around the mid-2010s often discussed a particular YouTube channel called Rotted Riley for its creepy content. It showed a real corpse in a coffin slowly decomposing in long livestream-style videos. In the first upload, she looked normal, in her mid-20s with blonde hair, wearing a necklace with an R and her eyes closed. As the videos went on, her body slowly decayed. The thumbnails showed her skin darkening, breaking, and being eaten by bugs. But interestingly, the original videos often had only 1 or 2 views on YouTube, meaning hardly anyone saw them. Still, Reddit users discussed it not only for its content, but also for the pinned message in every stream, "Don't wake up Riley, she's sleeping." The stream was often left playing in the background like white noise, except one day when a loud thump was heard. But nothing seemed to change in the video, so the viewers just shrugged it off. But to everyone's shock, soon, Riley's eyes opened, head turned, and as a result, the skin on her neck tore as she moved, followed by a scream. The viewers couldn't believe what they just saw. Chats went insane with discussion and theories, but the people realized they had experienced something darker when the channel posted one cryptic message: "Someone woke her up." After that, the stream was closed immediately, and the next day, the channel was gone forever. Later, most people assumed it was a hoax until one detail appeared. It was a missing person report from 2014 stating that a blonde woman in her mid-20s wearing a necklace with an R was still missing, and her name was Riley Ashcroft. Anniversary of the crime. Mara Murray, a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, had a mysteriously rough week in early February 2004. It started on February 5th, 2004, when she calmly consoled her sister Kathleen, who was recovering from a broken engagement. However, hours later, Mara herself collapsed into tears at work without any explanation. But that was only the beginning. Just 2 days later, she borrowed her father's car from a dorm party and crashed into a guardrail. Due to panic, she called her boyfriend to tell him about the accident. However, something happened in the next 2 days that remained unknown. As a result, at midday on February 9th, Mara suddenly started searching MapQuest for routes to the Berkshires and Burlington, Vermont, as if she was planning to leave. By 1 p.m., she even emailed her boyfriend saying she did not feel like talking, and at 1:24 p.m., she told her professor there was a death in the family even though no one had died. What's even stranger was that at 3:40 p.m., she went out, withdrew $280, nearly emptying her bank, only to buy Bailey's, Kahlua, vodka, and Franzia wine. But she didn't return home. Instead, she drove off alone in her black Saturn and vanished. Around 4 hours later, her car was found smashed into a snowbank on Route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire. A bus driver saw her cold and shaking on the street, but she begged him not to call the police, claiming she had called AAA, but AAA had no record of it. Minutes later, when police arrived at the scene, Mara was gone. She was never seen again. Her phone, bank cards, and wallet were never found. But in February 2012, a peculiar link to her disappearance came to light. A YouTube account called 112 Dirtbag uploaded a weird video titled Happy Anniversary just before the anniversary of Mara's disappearance. The name 112 Dirtbag was too hard to ignore. It matches Route 112, the exact place Mara was taken from, and her father once publicly said that Mara may have been taken by some dirtbags. Though after the mysterious Happy Anniversary video, the channel didn't post anything. Yet, 9 years later, in 2021, 112 Dirtbag suddenly returns with 4 videos, which include Road 112, an audio code nobody can explain, and the creepiest of all, a hotel receipt from 2 days after Mara vanished. To date, nobody knows who this YouTuber is, but there could be a link between Mara's disappearance and this guy laughing on the internet. Doctor who takes life. Around 2014, a mysterious account called Master appeared on dark forums like Death Addict and 4chan, posting strange medical photos that looked real. At first, people thought it was just another shock account. But that perception changed when users noticed the same masked man in every image, wearing long surgical gloves and scrubs. He soon became known as Dr. Gloves. The first image came from a real hospital morgue. Dr. Gloves was seen holding stillborn and premature fetuses, posing with remains and even displaying human organs on a cooking pan. But things got creepier when he uploaded photos of critically ill patients who were not of legal age, lying in hospital beds on breathing machines. In several images, his gloved hands covered their faces or noses as if blocking their air. The darkest set, called The Office Photos, showed a young female not of legal age in a room that looked like a private home. Dr. Gloves was seen pulling her hair and forcing her head toward his body, proving this was no longer a hospital setting. In the background, there was an HP Stream Professional laptop that was released in 2014, which proved the photos were current, not old hoaxes. Internet investigators started profiling him. From the images, he appeared white, heavy-set, and between 30 and 45 years old. He had small hands and used size 6 gloves, rarely for adult men. He also had access to a morgue, ICU wards, and private rooms, which ruled out ordinary hospital staff. A turning point came when one baby blanket with orange stars and an elephant logo from his images was traced to Dignity Health hospitals in Southern California, specifically Glendale Memorial. One badge even read a name, Edvin Balins, but it turned out that no such employee existed, and the badge was fake. Later, some photos showed both his hands in frame, indicating someone else was involved, so Dr. Gloves may not be one person. But who he was and what horror he was up to has never been revealed. Secret experiment in China. In February 2022, an urban explorer from Beanbag Adventures was walking down a dirt road in rural China when he unexpectedly found a broken down building. Locals called it the laboratory, but no one knew what it was used for. Thinking it could make an exclusive vlog, he walked toward the building, but got hit with a strong sour smell and a burning sensation. The explorer still walked deeper into the building, following the smell, and that's when things turned into a nightmare. It led him to a large pool filled with thick green liquid, and inside were multiple small bodies shaped like young kids. Some of them looked swollen, some half melted, but the explorer said that they were movie props. Still, he was visibly terrified by the atmosphere, causing him to immediately run out and throw up. When the videos spread across the internet, some people asked, if those were just rubber props, why were they drowned in acid and melting like that? This question had no answer at the time. But 10 months later, on December 26, 2022, that explorer went back to that place again, only to find the pool covered with a tarp, surrounded by bottles, tubes, and children's clothes. However, the tarp still couldn't hide the real horror underneath, because through a hole in the tarp, the explorer could see real bones, skulls, ribs, and hips. This time, he didn't pretend, saying they were props. Panicked and terrified, he left the place, only to return a few days later, and the things he discovered were far worse. There were jars with fetuses inside, piles of bones, and bags filled with human remains of both adults and young people. But after that vlog, Beanbag Adventures suddenly disappeared, and his channel was gone too. Days later it came back, but every laboratory video was deleted. The explorer also behaved as if nothing ever happened, which made the already unsolved mystery even darker. Level 7. Confession of a Killer. It was May 1997 when Shauna Maynard completed her graduation with a dream of pursuing fashion and freedom. But in December, when her mother, Inez Maynard, didn't give her permission to go to a party, Shauna left home, moved to Las Vegas, and cut ties with her family. However, things didn't go as planned for her in the next few months. Initially, she moved between apartments near Las Vegas Boulevard and Owens Avenue, living with women and their children. The rooms were crowded with 8 or 9 people packed inside. Shauna worked at a restaurant and, after that, did babysitting to survive. But people around her often used to give her unwanted attention for her beauty. As a result, by April 21, 1998, at 2 a.m., Shauna called a friend crying and said that her roommate was going to hurt her over a problem at the apartment, though she never clarified what it was. Since the friend herself couldn't come to get her, she told Shauna to run to the nearby Silver Nugget Casino, where a cab would be sent to pick her up. When the roommate saw Shauna panicking, she offered to call the cab herself, which Shauna refused and left the apartment alone. But she never made it to the casino. Instead, at 3 a.m., a Las Vegas Metro police officer heard gunshots near Decatur Boulevard and Blue Diamond Road, 15 miles from her apartment. And at 6 a.m., 2 drivers found a woman's body in the desert. It was Shauna Maynard. She had been pistol whipped, chased, and shot multiple times, including in the face. But she had no purse, wallet, or phone on her. Even her apartment was emptied out of all belongings. Her roommates said they were asleep, and a man and a woman were seen nearby in a 1950s brown Ford or Chevy pickup with rounded fenders. Their names were never released, and no arrests were ever made. Shauna's family believed she was killed for turning someone down, but the real truth was different, and it came out in April 2015 when something terrifying happened online. An anonymous user on 4chan's B-board claimed to be a serial killer, posting photos of dead women and dared users to guess their names. One of the names guessed was Shauna Maynard, as a few photos looked like her, but the entire thread vanished within 20 minutes. He also uploaded an image of a masked man holding a gun with a mysterious message: "I will be back in a month to finish our game." But he never came back, and the police also said the photos were likely a hoax. but no one knows what the truth is. The dark truth of North Korea. Otto Warmbier was a 21-year-old college student from Ohio who loved adventures. So he booked a New Year's trip to Pyongyang with Young Pioneer Tours in December 2015. He knew North Korea was dangerous, but the tour was sold as safe and fun. Upon arrival on the 29th, he even celebrated New Year's Eve in Kim Il-sung Square, but something happened in the next few hours because the travel group returned to the hotel after midnight, and Otto never did. Only at 4:30 a.m. did his roommate find him asleep. No one knew where he had been most of the night. However, they were soon going to find out the next day at the airport. When his passport was being scanned, soldiers suddenly arrested him for a crime. 2.5 months later, he was put on trial. It only lasted an hour. Such a short trial could only mean one thing: guilt was already decided. However, in the name of evidence, police had a CCTV footage where a man was seen taking a Kim Jong-un propaganda poster from a hotel wall, and prosecutors claimed it must be Otto, despite the face being unclear. And that's how Otto was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. His tourmates said the CCTV timestamp was wrong, but no one listened. In fact, it was released on March 18, 2016 for the world to see. Otto was locked away for months with no contact, and North Korea never revealed where he was. But things took a turn in June 2017 when Otto was eventually released after only 17 months of detention. He arrived home unconscious. Even his parents barely recognized him. When he was taken for a medical checkup, doctors said that his brain suffered massive oxygen loss. Eventually, Otto died within 2 days in 2017, but no one could prove what had happened inside North Korea. So his death only became a political weapon. The United States called it, but since the medical evidence is unclear, the argument never became solid, and Otto's story turned into a mystery forever. All of these mysteries were gut-wrenching to say the least, and if you want more of where that came from, check out Volume 3 of the most disturbing internet mysteries.